Hey, how you doing? It's March 13th, 2017, coming to you live from a beautiful studio here at I Know Too Much. Um, Saturday, I gave the impression that I was a Trump supporter, uh, which I am to the extent that there is this um, civil war going on. That's hyperbole, but there's two sides. So here's the narrative that I'm speculating on. Let's call one side the empire and one side the alliance. I'm saying Trump, if he is in fact on this rebel alliance side, then I'm a supporter. I think the empire side is responsible for a lot of wars, it's responsible for a lot of debt, and it's responsible for promoting a centralized power and a global, supranational, tightly held group of individuals and organizations that they represent, and the alliance is pro-sovereignty. So 2016, I would say, is less about populism and more about let's hope a localization, not a new world order, but a bottom-up order, kind of a cooperative nation state paradigm. Let's hope. So if Trump's on that side, that's the side that I'm on. And I don't know that he is, and I don't know that that narrative is true. But it seems to me, based on some of the WikiLeaks leaks, that it's possible. So that's one of the things, that's one of the narratives that I believe is worth watching. Um, one of the things I want to talk about is this guy named Eric Weinstein. He may go down to this the smartest person in history. Really, he claims he has a theory of everything, and I believe him. So he works with Peter Thiel. He's a mathematician, but anyway, you can hear him on Sam Harris and the Rubin Report. Brilliant guy. He has this interesting kind of frame about a little bit about what I'm talking about, in the sense that the rent-seeking elite promote narratives that benefit their interest. Who can blame them? That's only rational. But they've been able to dupe a certain class of academia, of the media, basically, to believe that they're promoting a righteous narrative, when in fact that narrative, well, that's not necessarily true. Some of the rent-seeking elites narratives may in fact actually be good. They're not bad just because the globalists are promoting them. I don't take the Alex Jones, they all want to enslave us and we're going into FEMA camps, and I don't necessarily believe all that's true. But I do believe that there's a certain class of people who are unknowingly subservient to a rent-seeking elite, and they stigmatize any narrative that runs counter to their official narrative, let's say. And they demonize anybody who thinks critically and are contrarian, and kind of just looks at what's going on and says, I don't know about that. It seems fishy. Uh, so check out that quadrant. Check out Eric Weinstein on the Rubin Report and on Sam Harris. Interesting stuff. So that ties into kind of another theme he mentions, which is, uh, you know, we can't have total transparency between government and the people. We just can't. We shouldn't want that. It's not feasible. So, but what we do want to know, and this is important, I think, is that our government is working on our behalf. I'm afraid our government is not working to enrich themselves. Like, uh, I don't think they're that petty. I mean, if they get rich along the way, then so what? Their pay should be commensurate with other CEOs and powerful people. So I don't have an issue with the politicians necessarily enriching themselves, but the bigger issue is they're not working for the people who elect them. They are working for the rent-seeking elite, and worse, masquerading as though they are working on our behalf. So an example of that would be like the deep state. it's interesting. Weinstein, I know, sorry to keep going back to this guy. I think he's a genius, but he talks a lot about language, and he uses a term, I think it's Russell conjugation, which is, illegal immigration or illegal alien or undocumented immigrant. What's the difference? Nothing. It's just how it makes us feel is totally different. One's persuasive in one direction, one's persuasive in the other. Read Scott Adams if you think we're rational and persuasion doesn't matter. So obviously people in the media figured out that the terms matter a lot. The language matters a lot. So going back to the example of what is an example of the Dupes promoting a narrative and stigmatizing a narrative that runs counter to the rent-seeking league. To me, it's this: the deep state doesn't exist. What about Chuck Schumer basically threatening Trump and appealing to the deep state to retaliate against him? Who need Trump be aware of if the deep state doesn't exist? Chuck, wasn't everybody just appealing to the deep state? So another example would be the headline since changed on the New York Times, and they're the ones who get to decide what's real news and what's fake news. They changed the headline, but anyway, there's a headline that says Trump aides wiretapped, and Trump comes out and says, "I've been bugged," and everybody says, "You're crazy. This guy's a lunatic." And it's like, well, you admitted you're wiretapping his aides. Is it really that implausible that you also wiretapped him? And I mean, I don't know. I don't want to get into this. It's not a left-right thing. I'm gonna get to that in a second. It's not I'm a supporter of Trump and I'm a Republican, I'm conservative and all this shit. And those things do mean something, but they're confusing. I'm a Trump supporter to the extent that there's this revolution going on. There's fighting between factions of parts of our government that we don't know about, that we can't know about, that all we can do is speculate on. If there's one side of that is pro-American sovereignty and peace and not child trafficking, then I'm on that side. And I'm fucking afraid that those people are really trying to do what they think is right, and that the deep state is real and is, they control the media, Hollywood, and all this shit. Why are some people getting censored off Twitter? Why is the Drudge Report not on Facebook? What the hell's going on? We live in a free country. So, that ties into another thing I've been reading, which is Michael Krieger. I've been reading him for a long time. A lot of his work's published on Zero Hedge. Check out his blog, Liberty Blitzkrieg. But, a couple months ago, he's kind of saying, look, I don't get what's going on politically. I'm not a fan of either side. I'm totally outside of this whole frame that we're in. And I relate. So I was he posted a series of blog posts on integrative psychology, spiral dynamics. Big guy in that is Ken Wilber. Seems maybe like he's kind of fallen out of favor in academia and maybe a little bit nuts, I don't know, but nobody's really been able to falsify some of these theories on integrative psychology. The gist is there's different tiers of consciousness that correspond loosely to how much of our needs have been met. So an example would be, okay, orange tier of consciousness, the prevailing corporate frame: work hard, study hard in school, make good grades, go to church and say your prayers, and good things will happen to you. A step above that orange level would be, what does it all mean? Here I have this huge house, have all this stuff, I'm not happy, give me an antidepressant, I'm fat, I need fake tits, so something's wrong. Let's be a vegan and stop suffering and everybody's a victim. I mean, those are kind of the bad parts of green, that there are real positive parts of green, which are we're all on this plane together. Let's work together here. Maybe we should care about our environment, but the point is you can't to move forward. That's very authoritarian. To increase your consciousness at a kind of a societal level, you can't make it about us and them, left and right, Republican, Democrat, all this shit. You have to bring people together. So it's interesting. Today's 313. That date always stands out in my mind. The year 313 AD was the Edict of Milan. That's when Christianity was tolerated in the Roman Empire. So integrate, politically savvy move, a new narrative, maybe freedom of religion in the Roman Empire to some extent, moves people forward. How do we get along? My view is this, we're all on a rock. We're flying through space, orbiting around this big ball of gas. We don't know how we got here. We don't know where we're going. We're all on the same fucking team. If we all start talking about what is our vision for the future, what are we working towards, we're all going to have a much more similar view of what that looks like. The difference is, how do we get there? And critically, how much authority do you want to require? So, do you want your government to tell you got to eat fruits and vegetables and you got to walk every day? No. But we'd be a lot happier if we all did that at an individual level. We'd be happier and healthier. We'd save money. So it kind of gets into Tony Robbins. It's not a matter of how. We know the strategies. It's going to be a matter of what and why and how do we motivate people as we move into this era of abundance. The idea I heard recently, the guy's last name is Harari, I think, something like that. He's an Israeli. He wrote the book Sapiens. It's a great book. I'm trying to think about where I heard. Tim Ferriss always asks people what books have you gifted the most at the end of the podcast. Like 5 people in a year. Maybe Yuval Ravikant, I think, who I mentioned last episode, suggested Sapiens, and I read it. It's a very interesting book. He's coming out with a new book, but he is being interviewed on Chris Ryan's podcast, Tangentially Speaking. I'm a big fan of Chris Ryan. I don't agree with him, but I like listening to him. I think he's very interesting. Anyway, we're moving from the people, the voters matter. It's not a god. It's not an institution. It's what do the people think in theory. That's who you have the powers with. We're shifting from that free market, democratic, and moving into an era of, well, what does the data say? And you think we have a lot of data now. We're just getting in. We're at the birth of the Internet of Things. So we're going to create abundance. We're going to have data. We're going to have right answers based on the data and not someone's opinion, not with the baggage of, well, he's a white privileged male, so he's part of the patriarchy. We can't totally disregard this guy's opinion. We can't. Everything he says is wrong. Part of the patriarchy. Well, we're moving from what do people think the human ideas to, okay, well, what does the data say? Which I think is a positive development. Maybe it gets us collectively to a higher tier. So that's a lot, bouncing around all over the place, but I am going to keep watching. I think, are there going to be clues that support the idea that there is this kind of revolution going on, this American Spring, and as we continue to potentially get adult level fiction, I'm gonna be here and try to talk out my theories. Maybe somebody will listen. Maybe you can subscribe.